My dad is forcing me to call his wife mom, and I don't know how to get him to understand that she is not. I, 24M, dad, 52M, and his wife, 38F. My mom passed away when I was 14, and I was always closer to her than my dad, so I took it very hard and still miss her every day. My dad moved on extremely quickly, openly dating his current wife just 1.5 months later. I suspect he was cheating on my mom. She moved in 4 months after my mom's death, and 9 months after her death, they announced their engagement on my birthday as one of my gifts. I didn't take it well. I threw out the cake they got me and walked out. I disappeared for a few days until they were about to put out a missing persons report, so I was forced to return home. They tried to get rid of all evidence of my mom, pictures, personal effects, and memories. I kept what I could and hid some of the items. They wouldn't let me celebrate her birthday or anything related to my mom. They tried to force me to call my dad's wife mom, but I never did. They would ignore me when I called her by her name. She would introduce herself to me as my mom, and I would correct her every time. It got to the point where I stopped talking to her unless absolutely necessary, or if I was correcting her. These talks usually consisted of one-word answers. My dad got angry every time I didn't call her mom or introduce her as his wife. When I was 16, I once spent 2 weeks not talking to either of them because I was ruining their family dynamic. I told them, until I can be a part of the family, there is nothing to say or do as one. They caved on about the 15th day of no communication. When I turned 18, I left for university, went extremely low contact, and didn't go back. When I was 21, I got engaged to my fiancée. She knows about my relationship with my dad and his wife. She respects it and is on my side. When they found out, my dad and his wife were upset. They didn't know I was seeing anyone. My dad's wife posted on social media, saying she was excited that her son, me, was getting married with a bunch of other things, and she also mentioned that she couldn't wait to become a grandma. I made a short post saying I am not and never was her son, and she won't be a grandma to any future kids. My dad got mad, saying I was disrespecting my mother and embarrassing her. I asked who we were talking about because my only mother passed away, and at this point, I lost both of my parents on that day when I was 14. That was 3 years ago, and we went back to low contact. But now my wife is about 8 months pregnant. My dad and his wife showed up at my house. I never gave them my address. They wanted to talk and meet my wife. I didn't let them in and told them to turn around and go back to where they came from. But they have apparently decided they want to move to my state to be closer and repair the relationship between us. She said she missed her son and wanted to be a better mom and grandma. I called them delusional and told them to leave, then slammed the door. They bought a house about 5 minutes away from us. This has all been too much for me, and my therapist wants me to let them in, but I would rather cut all contact. It wouldn't be so bad if they would just stop trying to replace my mom and act like she never existed. I honestly don't know much about my dad's wife. I don't even know if I know who my dad is anymore. My wife is struggling to support me and doesn't know how to help. Edit. About my therapist, he said I should try to express my true feelings towards them in a non-hostile and non-threatening manner. He suggested I do it in a constructive way that gets to the point. He also advised me to learn more about my dad and his wife and get to the root of who they are and how they feel about the situation. But I'm going to find a better therapist. Update. Answering some questions and clarifying. My wife, our unborn child, and I are doing well overall. My wife is over being pregnant at this point. Our child should be here in the coming weeks. I did find a new therapist. I called to cancel the rest of my appointments, and he did not take it well, so I filed a complaint. I met with my new therapist, and I like her a lot better. I feel like I'm actually being heard and getting the help I need. I want to make this clear. I am 24, and my dad's wife is 38, 14 years older than me. My dad is 52, 14 years older than his wife. So when she entered my life, I was 14, and she was 28. There were also theories about how my dad might have had something to do with my mom's death. That is not the case, but I still believe they were together before she passed. I am investing in a security system, but it will be a few weeks until they can install it. But for now, we have a doorbell cam and some cheaper cameras. Social media. Since the post about her being excited about being a grandma and how my wife and I got engaged, we have locked down all social media. My wife and I are not active on any platforms anymore, except for messaging or sharing pictures. We found the leak as well. It is my brother-in-law's, wife's sister's, husband. We had a family dinner where we planned on working on the birth plan. My brother-in-law was insistent on being there, which was odd as he was not a part of it to begin with. While we were waiting for my mother-in-law to get home, I shared what happened between my dad and how it made me and my wife feel. My brother-in-law got visibly uncomfortable. When we called him out on it, he denied it, but it was obvious. My sister-in-law called him out, and he broke down. He said he had been talking with them because we need all the family support we can get, and they should know their grandbaby. This caused an argument. It ended with my sister-in-law moving out and staying with us. They have no kids and have some issues. I think it is over for them. I will never trust him. Our birthing plan has been locked down and secured, made a day later without my brother-in-law, but we have some just in case of crazy showing up plans. Everyone who needs to know the plan knows. It is surprising how hard it is to get a protection order. Where I live, it is heavily dependent on violence or physical contact. Technically, what they have done is not against the law yet. They are perceived as no real danger at this time since there were no threats made, and they left when asked to. They have the freedom to move wherever they want. Also, since a family member gave another family member my address, it is fair game. Regarding grandparents' rights, it only applies when my wife and I have lost custody or are unable to care for our child. However, my mother-in-law and father-in-law will take on that role if needed. My wife and I are not in a position to move. We just bought our house when interest rates were low, and my in-laws helped with the down payment. It is nothing massive, but it is home and perfect for our starter family. My dad and his wife are unable to have kids. I don't know which of them is unable, so that may be why there is constant pressure. I wrote my dad a letter summing up why I wanted no contact. I expressed how I feel about what they did, that his wife is not my mom and will never be, and that if I ever feel like giving them a chance, it will be on my or my family's terms. I specified that my family is me, my wife, and any possible children moving forward. They are not to talk to my wife or me at any time unless it is through our lawyer. Our lawyer can decide what information to pass on. They are not welcome around us at any point, including our house, school, daycare, social gatherings, birthdays, Christmas, etc. If they see us in public, we are strangers. They should keep the space and act like we don't exist. If they break this, they will receive a follow-up letter, up to and including a protection order. The letter was quite long. Our lawyer looked it over, and my wife and I signed it. Then he signed it, and it was notarized. We made legal copies of all of our records. My lawyer used a private delivery service and hand-delivered it to him with the signature of the received goods. Plus, there is video evidence as well. So far, so good on that end. Update 2. In the weeks leading up to my wife giving birth, things were stressful. I ended up having my first panic attack. That was not fun, but my wife helped me through it. My brother-in-law tried to apologize and get back with my sister-in-law, but he messed that up by trying to explain himself again, insisting he was right in reconnecting my parents and my family. After that, their divorce has been moving quickly. My wife giving birth was an amazing experience for me. The moment I heard my son crying, it all became real. Watching my wife give birth was beautiful, but also scary. I've seen many women give birth on screen, but I was not prepared for what was to come. But when it was all over and I held my son for the first time, I couldn't help but feel I'd do anything for him. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law did an amazing job as support, getting us food, checking in, and allowing us to rest. We didn't leave the hospital for 3 days as we ran tests on my son, and my wife had some recovery to do, but it was all worth it in the end. We were happy to get home and enjoy being parents. About a week later, my parents showed up at my door with a gift and wanted to meet their grandson. I called the cops on them. They left before the police got there. The police said there was nothing they could do since I asked them to leave, and they left before the cops showed up. I reached out to my lawyer, and we got a protection order for my wife and son and are working on mine. Since I was 14, they have never been a physical threat to me, but they did come to my house when my wife was home alone before we gave birth, which helped her and our son get their order. I'm currently waiting for them to overstep a little more to get mine. Until then, it is on record that I called the police, and my lawyer was advised and has his documentation. My wife has been an amazing mom, and my son is such a happy baby. He is always smiling or playing with whatever he can get his hands on. I still go to therapy, and my new therapist has been amazing. I see her twice a week and am working through things. I hope this answers most of your questions. Thank you for all the support.